Britt, how are you?
Hello, good to be here.
I got to tell you a funny story. I didn't tell you this before we started the live. Very funny. There is a Christian artist that I really like. Her name is Britt Nicole. So when I started writing your notes, I wrote Britt Nicole, and I'm like, no, I'm not talking to Britt Nicole today.
Different.
No, this is you're not a singer, are you?
I am not nobody wants me to sing. I've been told that by my 15-year-old. She said, "Mom, I know you're happy, but nobody wants to hear that." So no, apparently not.
Oh, that is so funny. Well, we are here for another live. Welcome. I am Mark Struczewski, also known as Mr. Productivity. You can go there and get my top 5 productivity tips for free right now. And you can also find out about the podcasts and my coaching programs and what a nice guy I am. I'm glad you're here. I'm talking to Britt Bolnick. And if you're just joining us, please in the comments, let us know if you can hear or see us, because the last thing we want to do is we're like, can you hear us? So let us know. You should be able to hear us. Plus, if you have any questions for Britt, ask them. We'll answer them. You ask them in the comments. Britt was on my podcast back in episode 451 in October 2019. I just released episode 620, Britt. It's insane what my podcast is doing. But I wanted to have you on for 2 reasons. You have an in-arms coaching program, but you're also a rescue gal. And the last 2 dogs we have owned are rescues. We had a couple cats that we had to put down a couple months ago because it was time. There's so many people that abandon animals, and it really incenses me that when people they don't want to take care of a dog or a cat, then go take it to the shelter. Don't just leave it there or drop it off on the side of the highway. That really infuriates me.
I agree completely. We see a lot of that.
So your rescue is called Petey Posse Rescue. What's that name? Where'd you come up with the name from?
Petey Posse Rescue actually was named when my husband and I were sitting and watching a movie one night right after we started the rescue. And we thought, gosh, what are we going to call it? And he looked at our 4 dogs lying in a pile on the floor. This is the logo. And he said, What about the Petey Posse? and we were like, yeah. So we sort of left off the. And it's Petey Posse. It is bully breed sort of based, meaning, your boxers, your pit bull mixes, your, Amstaffs, but definitely not just bully breeds. We had a litter that we thought were Chihuahuas. We've had Shepherds. We've had, basically the piece that was really important to us is that people take responsibility for their dogs and learn about responsible dog ownership, including, but not limited to, positive training. So a lot of the dogs that wind up in our care are dogs that, were counter surfers or jumped on kids or, were horrible on a leash, and they were given up for that when, it's really a little bit of training, a little bit of positive training just makes a perfect family pet. So we're very focused not just on the rescue component, but also in advocacy and education.
We are the proud parents of a 40-pound, 2.5-year-old lab. We think she's a boxer. We're gonna do one of those DNA things because she's a rescue. She is so sweet. My wife and I are the first human beings she's ever met. How she came into us is that somebody had a pregnant dog. And there's this family. We live in Houston, so up in North Houston, some guy pulled up to this woman's farm and just dropped the pregnant mama off at the driveway and just took off. And fortunately, the mom, the owner of the house, loved dogs. And so she came out and brought the mom into the house. I guess they got some kind of huge room that's got like the turf in there, and let mama have the baby. And they had like 4 babies, 2 girls and 2 boys. And we were the first on the list to get the next dog. And so the lady brought him out to our house. And I'll never forget, I put the 2, we wanted the girl dogs because girl dogs, they don't like lift their leg when they pee. So the accents are really narrowed. And so they put the two girls, the 2 sisters, on the ground. They never touched carpet. They never touched grass before. And the one dog I picked up, it was kind of gray spotted dog. And she wanted nothing to do with me. I picked up her sister, who is now Gracie, and she just snuggled under my neck. She just singing to my wife. So we're both firmly wrapped around both her paws. She's a good girl. She's very trainable. She loves going to the bark park. And, it's so much joy. I mean, I just love Gracie. She brings joy. And I always tell my wife, it's like one of the things we love to do. We go to church every Saturday night. We're gone about 3 hours for Bible study in church. We come home and Britt, you think we came back from the war. Her whole body is shaking back and forth and she's panting and jumping up and down. I'm like, how could you not smile? So when we pull in the garage, we know it's waiting for us. We know that this dog who loves us so much is there to greet us with a hero's welcome. We just love that.
Yeah, it never gets old, does it? Someone who's that happy to see you every single time. I have a dog who does that every time I come out of the bathroom. Like I've been gone for 3 years and he really didn't know if I was going to come back every time.
Now, does your dog do this when we go to the store? If the dog's in the car, one of us stay in the car with her, and the other one will go in the store, and she gets freaked out because she's like, the store ate my mommy. Where'd my mommy go? Because you think about it from a dog's perspective, okay? Yeah. Mom walked in. Where's mom?
Yeah.
It's so fun. Because I wonder what a dog thinks when they see that.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. I mean, that's what they call in babies. Isn't that object permanence, where a baby, it's actually a developmental stage where they understand that when something goes out of their line of vision, it's not gone. And I don't know that dogs ever really reconcile that. So yeah, they can't see you. You're not there. I have one dog who needs to be by me all the time because of that.
Yep. Now, what's interesting is if my wife and I, drive to church, we we pull our car out of the garage and we start driving away. She sits in the kitchen and she looks out the street. Now, we don't know if she stays there for the full 3 hours. She may very well. But if we go on for a walk, we come home and she is panting. Apparently, she's like, hey, y'all went for a walk and you didn't take me. I guess she understands the car. She can't go in the car. But from the walk, she's going, wait a minute. I've got a harness. I got a leash. Why did you leave me behind? It's so funny. But this girl, she can run. She gets out a couple times, maybe a couple times every 2 or 3 months. And she's got the afterburners on. So we had to go get her a shock collar because we shock her. Then she stops long enough for me to catch her. But I can pick her up like a sack of potatoes. My wife can't pick her up, but I can pick her up. So it's kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's talk about In Arms coaching. What kind of coaching do you do?
I coach women, entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, healers, creatives all over the world. So my business has always been virtual. So COVID didn't really change that because I've worked with women everywhere from the beginning. And I work with women who really want to take both a inner growth perspective as well as an outer growth perspective with their business. So they want to grow strategically, of course, in terms of marketing, in terms of, growing their community, in terms of scaling their offerings, but they also understand that there's a personal and emotional evolution that has to be embarked upon in order to create whatever your version of success is. So for women, there are pieces around being successful in business that often men just don't have. Things like, comfort with being visible, or, fear of success, fear of failure. I'm sure men have those to a different degree, but it's a separate sort of barrel of monkeys with women, as well as things like, comfort with owning and claiming our values, setting our prices and standing by them. So I really work with women on a dual path of both personal evolution and the external markers of success in growing your business.
Well, I want to talk to you just for a minute, which is sort of related, is this pay equality. I remember when it became it's a big thing now, when people started making a big deal of it. I'm like, why shouldn't a woman be paid the same amount as a man if they're doing the same work and they have the same skills and the same experience? I mean, just because you're a woman, you should be paid less. So I never understood that argument when people say men should get paid more. And I'm like, no, they shouldn't. I mean, I'm sure I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
I don't know any men who would ever dare say that in front of me. So I don't hear that. But I mean, it just doesn't, I wouldn't even know where to begin because it seems like such a commonsensical.
Yes.
I mean, work is getting done. Why should I get more than you or you get more than me? Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, I mean, the only way that makes sense to me is if it's experience-based. If you're asking me to do a job and I've been doing it for 14 years and you've been doing it for 2, that makes sense to me. Our gender, 0 sense.
Yeah, I never understood that. Just like, I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I had Latino friends and Black friends. And I never knew when I was a kid that there was a segregation issue and, Blacks had to go to their separate restrooms and separate restaurants. And when I learned about that in school, I'm like, oh my gosh, why? I mean, it's just a different skin color. Now, I grew up and like my mom and dad said, look, you go play with whoever's in the neighborhood. And I didn't care what color you were. I didn't care. But apparently people down south, they really did care. And I think there's a lot of that going on still. But I think it's sad because I look at everyone as a human being. I mean, you're a human being. You got 2 arms, 2 legs. You got a brain. And I think everyone's a value. I think everyone is important. I may not always agree with you. Okay. But I will respect you because you're a human being. And I think a lot of the problems that we're going through in the world today, I think we have to go back to respect. We need to respect people because we're fellow human beings. We're always fighting against each other. But if we got invaded by Martians, we'd all come together because now it's an outside source. But we always fight among ourselves. It's like, you know, like Rodney King said in the LA riots a number of years ago, can't we all just get along? We're all human beings. We don't have to agree with everyone. Yeah. Let's, you know, I don't like conflict that's conflict for the sake of conflict. Some people just love the conflict. They just want to fight. They want to argue. They want to cause problems. And I'm like, I don't have a place for that in my life. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I absolutely agree. So what are some of the big problems? I know you alluded to a few of them. By the way, I'm talking to Britt Bolnick. I have to keep saying it slowly so I don't say Britt Nicole. What are some of the problems that you see, other than the ones you just alluded to, that women have in the workforce? I think that one of the biggest problems that a lot of the women that I work with, probably every single one, has and struggles with is how to manage our time in a way that allows us to do the work that we feel called to and yet still have time to do the things that we love. That's what I do. Yes, I know. I had a feeling this topic would resonate for your people. And this is a really big deal because, you know, the average model of building a business that we have comes from a very male-centered paradigm because it was, you know, it's the professional model that we have. Most men who are of middle age and successful have wives at home. This is where this came from in the 50s, right? Mm-hmm. Men could go out, leave the house, work all day, come home at night, dinner was ready, kids were fine, house hadn't caught fire or burned. And that's because there was a wife. So the women that I work with are also that wife. And very quickly, we develop a fear that if we create success in our business, you know, if you said, Britt, how about if I dump 20 new clients on you tomorrow? Now, I'd cheer because that would be great. And I figured this piece out. But for a lot of the women, when they start working with me, on one hand, yes, of course, that's what you want. That's the success. That's the income. That's the expertise. But then there's a hidden part of them that says, oh my gosh, if you gave me 20 new clients tomorrow, would I see my kids? Would I have time to sleep? Would I have time to do all those other things that I really want to do? Would I have time to take weekends? So there's like, it's what I call one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake, where we say we want something, but we're really afraid of what it's actually going to cost us because I don't know a single woman who isn't wearing maybe 10 different hats all the time. So one of the first things that I work with women on is how to use your time in a way that supports all the things that you love without having to compromise. And a side note, this has been really important to me because I also have an immune disorder. I've had an immune disorder my whole life. I developed it when I was 19. If I don't eat, sleep, eat whole foods, exercise, I literally break and I stop moving. So I had to figure out as a single mom, when I started in arms coaching, my kid's dad had just left. She was 15 months old. He left, no child support, no shared custody, signed away sole custody. And I had to figure out how to take care of her, how to get myself off food stamps, how to get our own home without breaking. And then I added, let's start a business, because back then I was waitressing and bartending with a master's degree, but I could do it at night so I could be with my kid because that was my priority, to be with her all day. So I slept 4 hours a night for 2 years. I bartended and waitressed 6 or 7 nights a week, and I created In Arms Coaching. And so learning how to manage and use my time effectively was absolutely non-negotiable. Wow, I love that. And one thing I want to talk to you about, because you love your tattoos. And one thing about 3 years ago, I was a speaker, and every time I went to speak, and I'm gonna tie this all together, so I'm not gonna leave that hanging. You had to wear a suit. I hated wearing a suit. I felt claustrophobic with the tie and everything like that. And I kept watching this guy. You probably heard of him, Gary Vaynerchuk. He's got like a billion followers. Gary V. I'm like, he shows up in shirt and a t-shirt and jeans and the sneakers. I'm like, and he's getting 6 figures. I'm like, why am I wearing this suit? I hate this suit. I'm like, I feel like I'm a straitjacket. So I said, I'm done. And I said, if anybody complains about it, I want to say this. I never got to use this line, by the way, Britt. I said, you hiring for what's between my ears or my wardrobe? And what's interesting is I think, because you said it, we have to be comfortable. Yeah. And for me, when I speak with, because I want to be comfortable. I'm going to be up there. I'm a very active speaker. I want to be comfortable.
I believe that.
And I see people, they're like, wow, this girl's got pink hair. It shouldn't be allowed. I'm like, so are you hiring her because of her pink hair? Or are you hiring her for her knowledge? Now, I think there should be, people who have tattoos all over their face. Maybe they shouldn't be the front line, of your company. But I think people are judging, and I think it's a lot of, like, my parents are in the 70s, a lot of people judging it. But I'm like, when I hire a coach, and okay, do you have any tattoos? What color's your hair? I'm like, look, you have results. I care about results. So I'd like to know, what do you think about appearance? Because a lot of people judge people like they're judging the book by the cover instead of finding out what that person can do for them.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a little secret that I'm not that embarrassed about, but I don't share that often.
I won't tell anybody. Just
okay,
you and me.
Don't tell anyone. No one can hear us, right?
Yeah.
I actually kind of love it when people look at me and judge me, because I know that they're looking at me and they're thinking, oh, Hell's Angels, biker chick, like rock and roll queen. And then they actually learn that I am extremely successful. I am the wealthiest person in my family of origin. I'm the only person to get a master's degree. I pulled myself and my child single-handedly out of food stamps and government cheese to build a 6-figure business with no business background. And I've taught hundreds of other women to do what they love and to make money. And then they have to sort of reassess their thinking, because if I can do that and I look like this and I talk the way I do and I have the views that I have, well, then maybe they need to reassess the box that they put me in. And I actually kind of love that.
You make a good point, because if you've got, let's say 20 women, because you're a woman, let's say 20 women, 19 of them are all wearing the same business suit. And here's Britt. Well, your eyes are naturally going to go to Britt because the other 19 all look the same.
I'll tell you, people come up to me all the time. It's funny. My mother visited where I live. I live in Maine. My mother visited over the winter, and I swear I couldn't have paid people to do this better. We were in line for the supermarket back when COVID hit and you had to wait outside. And someone came up to me and said, oh my gosh, are you Britt Bolnick of Petey Posse?
What?
I see all your video. And I was like, and this happens. And she said, because we had masks on, and she said, I wouldn't have known except for your hair. And I hear that all the time. My hair is red and blue. It stands out like a sore thumb. This I actually count as a business expense now, because it's part of my branding. People come up to me in Trader Joe's or stores and say, oh my gosh, I recognize you because of your hair. I've seen you, I've seen your in-arms coaching videos. I've read your newsletter. I see your rescue. It couldn't have, my mother still talks about it, and it was just amazing. But
that's cool.
I do stand out, and people remember me when they see me, and that can't go wrong unless you're out there committing crimes and you really don't want to be remembered.
Yeah, we don't want to remember that. No.
Yeah,
we don't want to be that. That's the wrong kind of remembrance, which is interesting because we live in such a noisy world. I've had a healthy debate on LinkedIn the last couple of days where people say, Mark, you're posting too much. You're posting too much. I said, well, there's this guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, and he says you should post 10 to 15 times a day. And they go, yeah, but that's Gary. That's Gary. I'm like, no, Gary's actually telling people who are brand new. Because here's the thing.
Wow.
There's 850 million members on LinkedIn. I think that's the correct figure. First of all, everyone's not going to see your stuff. But if everyone posts, let's say half the people post, that's 400 million posts. If you only posting once a day, people aren't going to see your stuff. And if you have, let's say I have like 9,500 followers on LinkedIn right now, it's growing every day. But if I post 3 times a day, those 9,500 people are not going to see all my posts. It's just not how the algorithm works. And even if they get sick of me, they can unfollow me. But Gary says it's so noisy, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's so noisy. If you're only posting like once in a while, you're not standing out. Yeah. And what you got to do is you got to find a way to stand out. So now every post I post doesn't do well. Every LinkedIn Live doesn't do well. Yeah. But, you got to do things that people don't do. For example, I think like 1% of LinkedIn people have access to LinkedIn Live. That's why you're here. So I'm going live on LinkedIn 7 days a week because why not? Most people can't go live on LinkedIn. So I'm trying to stand out. We have got to stand out because otherwise we're just swimming with all the other fishes and we don't look different. That's why the red herring stands out.
It's so true. And this is another great example of the difference between women building businesses and men, because for men, that makes perfect sense. And all you have to do is stand out. A lot of women, and I don't care where they were raised in this world, by what families, in what religion, in what race, we were taught not to be visible. I looked similar to this when I was a teenager. I was the victim of assault. I've been punched in the face for looking different. I've been ostracized. I've been bullied. I've been made fun of. Wow. I've been physically harmed for looking different. This worked against me when I was a kid. I was the odd one out and I was a freak. And so when I started building my business, not as much in New York City, but when I moved to Maine, my first networking meetings, I wore long sleeves. And I didn't have these then, but I wore long sleeves and I didn't have my hands tattooed either. And I hid who I was. And then I realized that it wasn't fun. I wasn't standing out. I wasn't being authentic. No one wanted to talk to me because it didn't seem like I really had anything to say. And so I took the long sleeves off and I started saying, you know what? This is who I am. My arms look like this. And you may not like me, and that's fine. But let's get it out in the open so you know. Because if I come in a little suit and you start to follow me, or you, God forbid, you pay to work with me and then you find out who I am and you don't like that, or you're not comfortable, I've done you an injustice. So let's get it all out. I'm going to be me. You be you. If we like each other, that's awesome. But let's come eyes open.
I love how you said that, because I think people they underestimate how much they're lying. Because if you're telling me, because I have this theory, I think 80% of the people on LinkedIn or any social media platform are struggling. I think only Pareto's principle still applies. 20% are really doing well. And if you're telling me, man, I'm killing it, and you're really not. Now, fast forward a year or two, now you're killing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, are you lying to me now or you're lying to me then? And so I'm like, I'm very transparent. I don't have a private jet. I'm not debt free. I don't have a Lamborghini, because I think it's wrong to say those things. And I see so many people out there saying, I'm killing it and I'm killing it. And I get to know these people and they don't know how they're going to pay for their mortgage that month. I was like, why don't you share that? I did a video about 9 months ago and said, I'm struggling. Okay. And so many people commented like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one. I said, no, there's more of us who are struggling than are not. And I think it's, to your point, don't be ashamed. You're not a loser because you're struggling. Everyone's struggling now. When my business was finally starting to kick in the high gear, then this thing COVID came, and all my clients, not all my clients, most of my clients had to cancel because they had to pay for the mortgage. They had to pay for food for their kids and all this stuff. It's reality. And I had a choice. I could curl up in the ball and suck my thumb, or I could say, look it, I'm just going to act as nothing happens. I'm going to serve the best. I'm going to show up myself. And I think people that do that are better off, because we're a very key word called authentic. And I can tell because you were on my podcast, you're here, I'm looking at you now, you're authentic. You're the real deal. You're not trying to be someone else's mold. You're being your own mold. And I think that's what makes you stand out.
I am my own mold. I also believe that not only is it inauthentic and dishonest to misrepresent yourself, but I've found that my clients learn the most from hearing where I stumbled and fell. Yeah. I talk about the fight I got in with my husband and the way I was wrong. I talk about the mistake I made in my rescue and team leadership. I talk about the launches that I catapulted into the universe to hear crickets, because that's where we learn. And it's authentic, but it's also where that's where the gold is, right? Yes. I mean, when things go well, I hope things always go well. That would be amazing. But I don't learn as much. When they go wrong, I really stop to think. Yes. And then I take that information and I give it back to my clients. And I say, here's where, here's what I learned from having this one fight with my husband about a way that I was failing in my business. Here's what I learned from a mishap on our team in Petey, Posse that I can take back to my clients for the teams that they lead. So it's not just authentic and honest. It's also deeply in service.
That makes a lot of sense. And as you were thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking, you were talking. I always ask my email subscribers at the end of the emails, I say, hey, listen, I want you to reply to me and tell me how you're doing. And very few people do it. And so I put an email out once and said, how come you don't like me anymore? And what people replied back to me, and Britt, was really interesting. They said, well, I thought everyone was doing it. I said, that's a problem. Everyone thinks everyone's doing it, but I haven't heard from you. I said, I don't care if I have 10,000 people on my email list. If all 10,000 reply to me, I care about everyone. And for people to say to me, I don't want to bother you. No, I'm here to serve you. When I ask you what you're struggling with, it's so I can provide content to make you get over that challenge you're dealing with. But when they told me, oh, I was afraid everyone was doing it, and it turns out that no one did. A couple people did it, but most people didn't. I'm like, I want to hear from you. Right. It's kind of like a circular reasoning.
Well, I also think that what you're seeing is that people are used to inauthenticity. They didn't actually think you meant that you wanted them to write and tell you how they were doing, because that's a marketing ploy where people are just like, I want to know. And then I know a lot of people who answer those and don't ever get answered. You and I answer the emails because when we say we want to hear how you're doing, we actually mean, hey, how the heck are you doing?
Yes.
And what can we do to support you? People aren't used to that.
I don't like Gary's potty mouth, but one thing I do like about Gary is he genuinely wants to meet all 8 billion people, except for New England Patriots fans. That's an inside joke. But he wants to meet, because he's a New York Jets fan. So he wants to meet everybody. Okay. And I want to, when people reach out to me, I am so humble. Like right now, Candy from South Africa is watching. And Candy, I don't know if you're still watching. Love your name, by the way. I bet people think you're a sweet girl. Okay. But I am so appreciative. Everyone who engages with my content, who sends me an email, who joins my coaching program, who subscribes to my podcast. I am so in awe that people find what I do of value and they reach out to me. Gary feels the same way. He feels so blessed. He's got VaynerMedia, Vayner Sports, VaynerX. And I think if people make the mistake when they get down and said, look, I've made it, I don't need you, little person, anymore. No, I don't. That's not who I am. And I know that's not who you are. Yeah. We are very grateful, whether we have one client or we have 100. It doesn't matter. We care about everybody.
Yeah, it's true. I consistently we ran a big Facebook ad campaign, and every person who commented on the ad or wrote to me or joined the funnel, I wrote back to. And I had people constantly saying, wow, I didn't think you'd actually interact with me. So Candy, I'm really happy to see, I just figured out how to enable my comments. So Candy, I'm really happy that you're here, because, when someone like Mark or like I reach out and we put this out into the world, for me, it's like the best possible outcome is that someone like Candy is like, hi, I'm here. I'm watching. I'm listening. Thank you for doing this. So Candy, thank you for being here.
And I think it was amazing when I launched the Mark Stachewski podcast on July 7th, 2017, because Gary Vaynerchuk said in the spring of 2017, the future is voice and audio. I just started the podcast. I remember the first week I had 125 downloads, and I'm like, that's it. And I'm like, wait a minute, 120. I know I downloaded it. My wife did. Who are these other 123 people? And now it's way past that. But I'm like, wow, these people are entrusting me. They're entrusting you to watch our videos, to listen to our podcasts, or read our blogs. And I'm like, I am so appreciative. Oh, Candy's still here. Hey, Candy. Candy's still here. So South Africa, she was here on my live yesterday. I think this is incredible. She's still here. So yeah, I am so thankful. And I think it's funny because I have the email automations like you do, but every once in a while I'll just reply to someone. They're like, wait a minute, you just emailed me. I said, no, that's my automation. This is really me. And I'm doing this thing now. I go live monthly training once a month, and I charge $10 for an hour's worth of training, which is pretty affordable considering my hourly rate. But every time someone shows up, if you stay all over the end, someone gets entered in the drawing to win a month of coaching with me. And people are like, are you serious? What's the catch? There's no catch. You just have to stay to the very end. I mean, the very end. And now I'm actually doing the drawing live. So while they're sitting there, I'm entering their names into wheelsofname.com and I just spin the wheel. And it's cool because people go, oh my gosh, this is so cool. That's who I am. I wish I could give away everything for free, but I like to live with a roof over my head and air conditioning and food in my belly and stuff like that. But so it's amazing. So I want to give your website a plug here. So go to inarmscoaching.com. I should do my radio voice. Inarmscoaching.com to find out more about Can you imagine my wife? Great. My wife's got to deal with me all the time. I'm only going to Johnny Jocko. I used to be a radio DJ, by the way, top 40 radio DJ.
Oh, that's awesome. I couldn't tell.
Back in the 80s when it was Michael Jackson, Simple Minds, New Kids on the Block.
Yes.
Over and over and over and over again. Like, can we play another song? Yes. The Right Stuff. Oh my gosh. I still don't like the New Kids on the Block. No.
I was more of like a Duran Duran kind of kid.
Oh yeah, Duran Duran. What's your favorite Duran Duran song?
I love Rio. There were so many. And when one comes on, do you know that I know every single darned word? What, 30, 40 years later, I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. You play me a Duran Duran song and I will sing it like the best.
Yeah. Well, a little inside when I remember when I first started working radio, what really caused my heart to be sad is I found out they didn't play records. It was now they do MP3s. Back then they played something called a cart. Are you familiar with an 8-track?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What a cart was they would put one song on the cart and you'd put the song in the player and you hit start and it had a little tone on it, an inaudible tone. So when it gets to the end, it would actually stop and then to be ready for the next one. And then they actually have markers in there. So if you have what's known as post, so they have a soft beginning and then the drums kick in, they put that post in there. So the DJs, it's not by accident that the DJ goes, here's Elton John at the WXYZ, and they hit it. It tells them, okay, the drums start at 12 seconds in, the piano starts at 14 seconds in. So it's really cool the way they do that. But now everything's MP3. Right. But I remember, you remember Casey Kasem's American Top 40?
Of course.
I thought that was live. And when I showed up, I was working for a talk radio station. Okay. And next door was the FM powerhouse. And they were doing Casey's American Top 40 before Casey got booted out. And, it's a long story on there because I love Casey, that they had records that they would have side 1A and the back of side 1A would be 4B. And I saw one guy actually flip the record over and went from song 37 to song 3, which that gets their hotline in the studio ringing really quickly. They're like, so I would never go in there because I was afraid of bumping the record. But now everything's satellite, everything's MP3. Sure. But yeah, there was and all request weekends. You're always going to request the songs that are hot anyways. They would just say, this is for Britt. And you think, oh my gosh, they're playing my song. No, if you listen to Top 40 station, tell them to play Hank Williams. They ain't going to play it. They ain't going to play it. Okay. They're just not.
That's so funny.
So go to inarmscoaching.com, find everything you want to know about Britt and more. And I'm sure she's got a lot going on. And this is just a taste of what Britt offers. And then after you're done there, go to my website, mrproductivity.com. You can get my top 5 productivity tips. I got a brand new program called Digital Productivity Coaching by request because everyone takes one of these for them, Britt. Okay. Yep. And so now my coaching is all on an app. Now you don't get access to me because it's only $29 a month. So you don't get access to me. We're not going to get a call for an hour for $29 a month. But if you want to purchase the call, you can. But it's all. And then my podcast links, everything I do is at mrproductivity.com. Or you can just go there and say hi because I really like to hear from you. So
go say hi. He wants to hear from you.
Yes, I do. I do. I like to hear from people. I love when people say hi to me. So, and that's why I'm so thankful I work from home. And so I very, very, very rarely wear a mask because here in Texas, if you're out exercising, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're home, you don't have to wear a mask. Right. Now, my wife has to wear a mask when she goes shopping, but our church, we don't have to wear a mask. They're recommended, but not required because our governor is a Christian. Like I'm a Christian. So churches, mosques, and synagogues are exempted from mandatory masks. So I probably wore a mask maybe 3 times since March. That's only because I work from home. Now, if I worked in the corporate, I hit to wear a mask. But I'm very thankful because I went shopping with my wife once. I thought it'd be chivalrous and go shopping with her. I feel claustrophobic wearing a mask. I really do. I don't feel like getting my breath. They say you're getting enough air. I'm like, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
We weren't meant to wear a mask on our face. I'm just saying we're meant to like have our mouths and nose be exposed.
Sure.
But you know what, Britt? We are going to get past this. We are going to get past this. I don't know when, but it's not going to kill off the civilization. We will get past this. So thank you so much for being on the show today. It was an absolute delight catching up with you and talking about rescues and about coaching and about a whole bunch of stuff. So it was a great conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Always a good time.
Now, those of you who are watching live or you're watching the replay, it would mean the world to Britt and I mean the world, if you would immediately like, comment, and share on this, because when you do that, especially on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's going to go, oh, we have to show this to more people. And I think the message that Britt gave us today was very powerful. So let's help her get exposed to more people, especially on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another great guest. A pleasure. Have a great night, a great day, wherever you are in the world.